Hey, y'all, welcome back to Gadfly, the podcast about third parties, fringe candidates, and just generally weird American electoral history. I'm Dusty Wilson.
I'm Una O'Leary.
And, you're not changing it up this week? You're going back to normal?
I got real spicy. I got too hot too fast.
Look,
That's
quarantine is fucking with us all in very different ways. I totally get it.
Yes.
I mean, actually, yeah, we were just talking about our quarantine minimalism, I guess you could call it. I don't know. Someone will come up with a really good name for this in years, but kind of that thing how you can only focus on a couple of very niche things now at this point in the quarantine, that everything else, like I used to be able to watch any sort of bad found footage horror movie front to back and love it. Mm-hmm. And now, like, after 10 minutes, I turn them all off. And it's such a strange thing for me that it doesn't fit within my COVID world now.
People tell me to watch a show and I just nod. That's as far as it goes. I hope we can kind of carry that into the real world too, because I know people are very kind when they recommend things, especially when they recommend that people listen to Gadfly. I thoroughly understand that one. Yeah, it's really, really tough because, it's that old Mark Maron bit. I don't know how much time I have left. Oh my God.
We're all going to the stuff that we know will immediately give us happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are a raccoon in a dumpster.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you grab with your incredibly dexterous hands?
Oh man, that's making spreadsheets and watching people race Hot Wheels on YouTube.
There we go.
It is basic as fuck, and I'm an adult. But yeah, on the upside though, we have part 3, and yes, the final chapter of the New Alliance Party. Because as I said at the end of the Alan Keyes episode, I am not letting this shit go on for a part 4. Never. I mean, unless we're talking about Ron Paul or Lyndon LaRouche, we are not doing a more than 3-part episode on anything.
I petition for from here on out, multiple part episodes be referred to as episodes, a la like the Star Wars universe.
Good point.
So this would be episode 3 of A New Alliance.
Man, I got to go back and change so much on the podcast hosting site then.
No, just moving forward.
Oh, okay.
Because New Alliance already sounds like a late day addition to the Star Wars.
Yeah. Like if I don't know what's a low budget,
Clone Wars, New Alliance.
There we go. I love it. Yeah, the Cartoon Network made for TV series, Clone Wars New Alliance. I love it. Anyway, so going forward, there is one thing I did want to bring up. I retweeted it today, but I was so excited about it. I don't think we've ever really talked about this third party, but there's a third party nowadays called the American Solidarity Party. And their whole thing is Catholic centrism.
Oh no.
Yeah, well, it's stuff like there should be a livable minimum wage, but also there shouldn't be abortion. And it's just like this weird kind of balance of stuff. If I remember correctly, I think their party mascot is either a stork or a pelican. It's like a gangly, strange bird that if it was flying at you, you would wish for death.
Oh, that could be either.
It really could. I mean, I could look it up, but what's the point? I only have so much time.
I'm hoping it's a stork, but for, I guess for the anti-abortionist, stork brings a baby. But a stork, but instead of wings, it has the little fisticuffs that the Notre Dame,
just like an old timey tattoo.
Yes, like a little fighting Irish arms.
Oh man! All right, so I'm looking at their logo now. I might just be wrong on both birds. I don't know. It's one of those gangly seabirds. It is a pelican. Okay.
Is it a gull?
I mean, apparently the pelican is a traditional symbol for charity.
Oh,
so
why?
There's that. Either which way, they've been around for a while, at least since 2016. They ran this last year, and they got on enough states as a write-in candidate that they technically could have won the election. But they had history yesterday, and they got their first ever candidate elected into office.
Mazel tov.
So the American Solidarity Party this week elected a guy by the name of Christopher Zender, who, from my little bit of research, seems to be a guy who writes about Catholic history and philosophy. Not always the best thing to go together, but let's keep going forward. But he was elected the Hartford Town Councilman. And the fun thing about this, Hartford, Ohio, is where I grew up.
Shut up! Where you grew up got a third party!
All right, so, I mean, I moved around a lot as a kid. So when I say grew up, it's where I lived during high school, the back end of it. But yeah, this guy is from Hartford, Ohio, or as the locals call it, Croton. I'm never calling that town fucking Hartford. I don't care how much better it sounds. It is Croton, Ohio, and all 400 of us agree. It is cornfields. It is one diner. I think there might be a pizzeria there, and an elementary school that has a gym that I think might have used to be one of those half-circle barns. Either which way it works.
Oh, nice. Yes. I remember those.
Yeah. So honestly,
completely detached from the school itself.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. With those like push in, pull out bleachers that if you left your hand in too long, it's getting cut off.
Yeah. Fuck you if there's a polar vortex. You're going out there for dodgeball. Back in my day.
Yeah, back in my day, every elementary school was horribly dangerous, and we would fix it, but people keep voting down levies, so what do you want us to do?
It's so true.
Also, for some reason, the state thought our school district was incredibly rich because they based the wealth of a community based off of land value. And since our school district was the second largest in size in the whole state, it was all cornfields and places that would have been great for housing developments. So the land was valued very, very high, while the income did not match that.
Oh, that's some shady real estate bullshit.
Yeah, it's not great. Hopefully they've changed that by now. But yeah, thorough congratulations to Croton, Ohio for nominating a third-party person to the town council.
You did, Croton.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I'm very excited to shout out my hometown, something I never thought I'd be able to do on this podcast. So huzzah. And going from that wonderful and happy news to the American Solidarity Party, let's go back to the New Alliance Party, Part 3, Episode 3, A Quest for a New Alliance.
Yes! See, it worked so well!
Man, put the colons in there wherever the fuck you want. I do not
So many
care.
colons. All of them. Make it look like an SAT test.
Oh my god, no. Anyway, so as a bit of a summary, let's quickly talk about Lenora Fulani's plan for the 1988 presidential race. So New Alliance Party is kind of sort of running, and Lenora Fulani is the head of the ticket this time around for the cult political party that Fred Newman is running. So Lenora would officially begin semi-running for president in 1987, and she'd introduce her Two Roads plan in which she would actively campaign for Jesse Jackson in the Democratic primaries, and if he won election, then she drops out and would fully endorse Jesse Jackson for the rest of the campaign. But if he lost, which he did, then Lenora would stay in the race, run as the New Alliance Party's nominee, and get on the ballot in all 50 states plus DC. And so following the loss of Jackson to Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis, Lenora would kick off her presidential campaign in earnest. But for Lenora to get on the ballot in all 50 states, let alone win, it would be a pretty Herculean task, especially considering when the party ran for president in 1984 with Dennis Surratt, they were only able to get on the ballot in 33 states and only scored 0.05% of the nationwide vote. So how the
Reach
hell?
for the stars.
I know. Well, I think I've said this before, but I don't remember. It's as my friend in high school used to say, why shoot for the stars when the moon's just right there? That way, when you get to the stars, you're like, holy shit, stars. Weed is fine. Weed is perfectly fine. So how the hell was Lenora even going to win? So step one for any big campaign is you got to get a big name endorsement. And it was really, really clear that Lenora was hoping that Jesse Jackson would be the first to come to their side. Throughout their whole campaign, essentially Lenora would spend about 90 to 99% of her talks talking up Jesse Jackson and then occasionally peppering in her own ideas. And they were mostly just the ideas that Jesse also shared. So there was an interview that Nancy Ross had done before. She was the initial vice president nominee for them back in 1984 and was the governor nominee for them when Lenora ran for governor the first time. And someone asked her directly, hey, does Jesse Jackson support you guys? To which she said, it's not a question of whether or not Jesse Jackson supports me. It's whether or not I support him, and I support him completely.
Nope, that wasn't the question. That was the question was, does Jesse Jackson support you? And you sidestepped it hard.
No, I believe how U.S. journalism says things go. No one is allowed a follow-up question, and no one else can follow up on a question someone else asked. So that's how that goes. So now Jesse's completely out of the race, and there seemed to be at least a small expectation that Jackson would return the favor and endorse Lenora. And that endorsement, it would never fucking show up. In fact, Jesse would come out that year and officially state that, hey guys, you know how I run the Rainbow Coalition and these chucklefucks are running something called the Rainbow Lobby and occasionally calling it the Rainbow Alliance? They are not associated. They are not the same fucking thing. And just did a bit of side shade to be like, hey, this Kirkland brand Rainbow Lobby is not associated with me. Quit giving them fucking money when you mean to give it to me. And so Fred Newman sent out the order to completely cut the cord on any hope of a Jackson endorsement or speaking well of him ever again.
To be fair, I feel like Lenora was working under mafioso rules.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, and Dennis Surratt had brought up before that it's all about picking who you want to either emulate or try to trick into joining you. And the second someone calls you out on your grift, Fred Newman is immediately like, you're my enemy. I'm on the offense now.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But Lenora was able to get another civil rights leader to step up and fully endorse her in the New Alliance Party. And it was a person they'd been working to form a relationship since 1985. A fellow by the name of Louis Farrakhan. Now, to understand why this was such a huge step down from Jesse Jackson, but also a move that made complete sense, we need to do a bit of a deep dive into not just Louis Farrakhan, but also his organization, the Nation of Islam. So this is going to be a huge cutaway. We're going to do a bit of a cutaway into another history, but we will be coming back because I think it's super, super important to understand this organization, to understand both how fucked up it is that they were wanting their endorsement, but also why it's eventually going to make complete and total fucking sense. So the Nation of Islam is an organization that intends to, quote, improve the spiritual, mental, social, and economic condition of African Americans. The organization, as the name indicates, has a foundation in the Muslim faith. It would be founded in 1930 in Detroit by a relatively mysterious person named Wallace Fard Muhammad. And his childhood, well, as we say here, it depends on who you ask. The Nation of Islam states that Wallace was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia in 1877 within the tribe of Quraysh, which also happens to be the tribe that the Prophet Muhammad was in. He would study in London and then move to Los Angeles, where he attended USC. Like if there was a sentence that said Jesus of of Nazareth, moved to, let's say, Syria for a while, and then he got his undergrad at University of Wisconsin Whitewater.
It would be, or even worse, it's just like, like another equivalent could be like, yeah, Jesus of Bethlehem. He did some time in Beirut, and then he got an MBA at Stanford.
Yeah, it's not something you really think about when it comes to any sort of prophets or like religious founders that like, oh yeah, they went and got their bachelor's degree and hung out for a bit.
Like, sure. So the Coke period of your life, and then you found God?
Yeah, college.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that in of itself is just kind of a cool little thing to be like, oh yeah, all future prophets in any sort of religion that like starts now and ends up being a huge thing in however many centuries is going to be like, yeah, they studied architecture at Notre Dame. It was
oh my God.
Anyway, so that's my dork out moment.
I love it.
So after getting his bachelor's degree at USC in 1930, Wallace would move to Detroit to begin preaching his own version of Islam, and he would gain a following and form the organization we know as the Nation of Islam in 1930. However, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner would present a completely different story in 1963. The newspaper, and just so happens to be the FBI, would state that Wallace Fard Muhammad was actually born in New Zealand as Wallace Dodd. Now I'm going to put a little asterisk in here. So the FBI in the 60s probably not going to be the most fair judge of who someone is or their character, especially when it comes to the civil rights movement.
Grain of salt is all we're asking.
Find the biggest grain of salt you have in your cabinet and just carry it into the room, and it will talk a little bit of sense into this, constantly reminding you of that. But the story that they create, it's just like the details are too funny to me and too kind of weird that I just love the competing images. But also just because the story of Wallace Fard Muhammad, there's no clear answer as to who this guy is or what the fuck he came from. So he was actually born in New Zealand as Wallace Dodd. In 1913, Dodd would immigrate to Portland, Oregon, as you do. And 5 years later, he'd be arrested for possession of alcohol, as you do. And in 1926, he'd be arrested again in California for possession of narcotics and would serve time in San Quentin prison. The FBI would agree that Wallace probably moved to Detroit in 1930 and stated that he initially made his living there selling umbrellas and silks door to door.
Ooh.
Yeah, which, it sounds like a weird combination of things, but also the more you think about it, it's probably the most sensible thing to sell door to door.
Yeah.
I mean, both can easily be carried in circles, and it's not really going to fuck you up that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it rains in Detroit.
It does. I do love the idea of, in my head, he still has his New Zealand accent.
Oh, God.
Hard.
Oh, my God. I'm Willis. I'm here to sell you some umbrellas.
Silk scarves.
I'm, really appreciate it. Every New Zealand accent is just Rhys Darby done okay. I'm okay with that. Anyway, so as for what he preached, well, it's kind of fucked up. So just kind of buckle in. So he would preach that Christianity was a false religion. He would heavily focus on how white culture was actively attempting to eradicate black culture, which not wrong, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 1930s. Yeah, it's not great. But Wallace also noted that the last names of descendants of those who had been enslaved always kind of happened to be the last names of the people who had enslaved them. So as a way to break away from that history into kind of a fresh new start, all members of Muhammad's faith would temporarily replace their last names with the letter X to act as a placeholder until they received their new Muslim last name. And that being said, Wallace also had an aspect of the church that could be described as super problematic: black supremacy. So in the first episode, we talked a bit about the idea of black nationalism and how there's not really a strong correlation between black nationalism and white nationalism, and that it's more about protecting your own culture in a culture that is actively trying to destroy it or gentrify it or any other thing that would just remove what it is. When I say black supremacy in this regard, I mean 100% that Wallace Fard Muhammad believed that all white people were genetically inferior and quite literally born of pure evil. Best I could tell, he was the person who created the phrase white devil, or at least popularized it.
Ooh.
And look, Wallace. Can I call you Wally? All right, Wallace. White people, we kind of have a history of genocide, murder, colonization, or the source of the vast majority of the problems in the world currently. Even if it seems far off from something, we probably had a hand in at least what began it. But Wallace Fard Muhammad wasn't talking about that. He actually formed a whole story on where white people came from. And it started, as you know, Una, about 6,000 years ago. That's right. Wallace Fard Muhammad is a young white people creationist.
I kind of love it.
You want to hear the full story?
I do.
So as the tale goes, 6,000 years ago, there was a black scientist in Mecca by the name of Yaqub, who was he was a freaking genius. At the age of 6, he answered the great question of the insane clown posse: magnets, how do they work?
How they do.
I mean, which, yeah, nowadays it's kind of memey, but also if you're going to discover that at the age of 6, holy shit. But by the time he was 18, he had gained the nickname Big Head, both due to his arrogance and his big ol' noggin. So it really worked out for bullies of that time.
Oh, no.
And as all mocked scientists do, Yaqub switched his study to evil science and began a plan on how to rule the world.
Because he was bullied.
I know, don't bully people, even if they're arrogant. He's like, I figured out how magnets work. Isn't that cool? And I'm like, shut up,
Show off.
Eat my dick, fuck off. They push him on the ground. He steals magnets.
How do these work?
Oh my God. We figured out how these worked years ago. You didn't discover shit.
You just found it.
So during his studies, he discovered that all black people had two specific genes, a black gene and a brown gene. And for those keeping track, colorism isn't the only shitty thing that's going to come out of this story. So get ready.
God, the 30s were a weird time.
It's not good.
Like, man.
Everyone's dying and poor and desperately trying to live. And also this shit's happening.
It's like eugenics were like the Coachella of that era.
Oh my God. I mean, it's good to know Coachella hasn't changed. So by this point, Yakub somehow had developed a huge following. And, I get it. Elon Musk has an army of bros. And so sure, why not? A big famous scientist has a huge following. So Yakub gathered 59,999 of his followers and moved with them to the Greek island of Patmos, which I think is kind of indicated at the time of being like uninhabited. I don't know.
Shrug emoji?
Meh. So he established his own mini dictatorship and got super into eugenics. You see, whenever a baby would be born, Yakub would bust in and check to see if the baby had more or less melanin than their parents. If it was less, the baby would live, and if more, the baby would immediately be killed. So Yakub's plan was to, like a pair of magnets, create an opposite race that he could turn into an army and use to subjugate the black people of the world. But what Yakub didn't seem to figure into the equation was how long it would take for his plan to work. And Yakub would die before he gained his army, and would die at the young age of 152.
What?
Bible ages, it's fine. I mean, I've never read the Quran, so I don't know if they have the same issue with people living till like 600 or not, but...
Listen, that Mediterranean diet is no joke.
Fuck off forever. God damn it. Anniversary done.
Olive oil and fish. Keeps you alive for 200 years.
Look, you bathe in the Dead Sea once a month. It keeps your skin beautifully crispy.
Also, activity. Be on the move. Be like Odysseus. Never get home.
What, you think we like electing evil pharaohs? No, we do it for the cardio.
Oh my God.
That's a great... Oh no, Yakub, what have you done to me? Anyway, so it would take about 600 years, but thanks to the Musk dude bro level of devotion of his followers, they kept up Yakub's work and created white people. Now, Wallace would state that this brutal origin would explain why white people are so naturally evil, and that inherently in our genetics, due to this eugenic uprising, it's why we're always just the worst. And the new white people would end up invading Mecca, fail, and become banished to West Asia, or as we would call it, Europe. And at some point, Moses would try and civilize the white people, as he did, who at this point were living naked in caves and eating raw meat, but the task ended up being too hard. So Moses gave up and blew up 300 of them with literal dynamite.
This is so bonkers.
What, you never read that part of the Bible?
This is the weirdest fan fiction of the Old Testament.
Look, you got to do something in the 40 years that you're wandering the desert. And if you happen on a cave of white people eating raw meat, what are you going to do? You're going to try to civilize them because you need something to do. And when it doesn't work, you're not going to eat that dynamite. You're going to use it.
Use the dynamite that I'm sure somehow involves magnets.
Well, yeah, that's how it works now, right?
And if you can't civilize them, fuck them up.
But it gets worse. It gets very worse.
Really?
Yeah, because you know what? It's not enough to just kind of say this stuff about white people. You got to bring like other racism into it.
Oh, no.
Because it turns out that Wallace claimed that every other race that we have is actually just the result of Yakub's work. They were just people who got out of Patmos and formed their culture elsewhere. So it's kind of like saying white people are the worst, but everyone else is still at least marginally worse than black people.
I don't even know where to begin. Because for one thing, it's like, come on, like you're gonna talk to someone from Korea with the history of dealing with the Japanese and really come at them with this formation. But then two, like, excuse me, sir, like my Celtic lily white ass did that all on its own. It did not need help from an island in Patmos.
We were shit from the beginning, damn it.
We were full on beta blood the whole time.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is if you're going to form an organization, which it is important to know that the Nation of Islam was strictly for African Americans, or for black people in general. So it's a good way to explain why you can't let in your cool Latino friend.
Yes.
And it's just like, sorry, you can't. It's, I didn't tell you, Coop, what to do.
But
Una, the story's not done. It actually gets a little worse. Much like an H.P. Lovecraft story written by a white nationalist. Well, by another white nationalist.
By H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah. The next follower or the next leader of the Nation of Islam, a fellow by the name of Elijah Muhammad, added on to the story. And this is going to suck to read. So he expanded on the mythos by claiming that some white people had tried to, quote, I cannot say this enough, I am quoting this, that some white people had tried to graft themselves back into the black nation, but had nothing to go by. A few were lucky enough to make a start and got as far as what you would call the guerrilla. In fact, all the monkey family are from this 2,000-year history of white race in Europe. So let's unpack this as carefully as we can.
Let's take the dynamite that was used by Moses and carefully take it out of the cave.
All right, so we're going to take racist iconography.
Yes.
And we are going to kind of lob it at white people, but still also not.
What it feels like is the like grown-up therapeutic, like cathartic version of the school playground rules of what you say to me bounces off me and stick, like I'm rubber, you're glue. I get it. I get it.
I agree with that. It's 100% the feeling that I get from it. And I see why it's being said like that, especially when you're having every shitty white person yelling something like that at you.
Yes. Your entire life.
Yeah. So I get where it's coming from, but also it's like, hey, you should really shoot for a second draft here. Like I get where you're going. You need to flesh this out.
Don't put it up on Tumblr yet.
Yeah.
Sleep on it.
Look, I get 4chan is where no one's second draft goes. But so the real bonkers thing about this whole story is that it shares a fuck ton in common with a bunch of what white nationalists do nowadays. So one of the big things, let's take the QAnon shaman, for example. So he had a multitude of tattoos on his body, and most notably, none of them are swastikas. And part of that is because, he technically doesn't identify as a Nazi. So there is that. But also, a lot of white nationalists and white supremacists have discovered it's really hard to get a job and live your life with a Nazi tattoo that everyone can see or eventually discover at some point when you're at the pool and you forget to cover it up. But you can wear things that are, say, Norse iconography, things that harken back to a mythical time when white people took and pillaged whatever the fuck they wanted, when white people were associated with the gods on a regular basis. So when you look at the QAnon shaman, you can see a tattoo of Thor's hammer, of various other sorts of Norse symbolism that now today is essentially like a secret handshake for Nazis.
Right. And then code switch into like, no, it's just the Marvel universe.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the whole show of don't show your power level. You have to hide how much of a fucking racist you are. And so it kind of shares that same thing. It's like this ancient reason of why these things are happening, but also a deep, long held ancestry of why you are superior. Not just, equal to another person, but why you are genetically and historically superior. So Wallace is doing all this in the 1930s and really just kind of doing some foundationally racist stuff, like really kind of setting the future for racist ideas while surrounded by a fuck ton of other very strong racism. And funny enough, Wallace would mysteriously disappear 4 years after showing up in Detroit and founding the Nation of Islam. And no one knows what happened to him. No one knows where he's from. The only thing people know about Wallace Fard Muhammad is that for 4 years he was in Detroit and there's a picture of him and then he left.
Makes you want to search out Dearborn for an old man with a New Zealand accent.
Oh my God, it would be amazing. Yeah. So the last time he would be seen would be talking to Elijah Muhammad, granting him the Nation of Islam and allowing him to run it and control it. And then he got on a flight to Chicago and no one ever saw him again. There's a theory that when he landed in Chicago, he was immediately arrested and beaten to death, which, no Chicago cops. Yeah, that could have happened. There were other theories that he just flew back to Mecca and lived the rest of his life with his family in obscurity. And then I'm sure if you ask the FBI, they'd be like, no, his grift was ending. He had a good grift. He got out while he could and went and did something else.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. Yeah, if you don't know where someone is from definitively and they cannot prove it, and they're in town for 4 years selling you trombones and tubas, and then they fuck off and leave after a nice little procession through town, yeah, you're in a grift.
This is my moment to pour one out for the days when you could just disappear.
I know, right? There are some times where I'm just like, oh man, you could just do that. You could hop a train west, and that was the most you had to plan.
Right. That is just the direction.
Yeah. Yeah, that way. That's my plan B, is that way.
Start a new life under a new name.
Oh man. So now Elijah Muhammad's running everything. And there's a lot of history there. So we've already gotten so deep into the foundation. So I'm just going to kind of keep this a lot tighter than I would normally be appropriate. So amidst the civil rights movement, Elijah would grow the Nation of Islam all across the nation. But really, a lot of that credit would have to go to one of his followers, a guy by the name of Malcolm X. So while Malcolm X's fame and influence grew more and more, Elijah Muhammad's jealousy grew along with it. Because if the Nation of Islam was going to grow, then the name of the guy running it should be the top billed thing, not this gorgeous dude from New York City. It should go to a guy in Chicago who's doing his best, damn it. But it also didn't help that Malcolm X had discovered that Elijah had a real habit of fucking a lot of women that weren't his wife. And this ended up being corroborated by Elijah's own son. And this would lead Malcolm X to completely breaking from the Nation of Islam, going on his own. Which brings us back to Louis Farrakhan. You see, Louis has a real history of being a power-hungry asshole. And when Malcolm X left, Louis doubled down on his support of Elijah Muhammad. Louis began taking every opportunity that he could to preach violently against Malcolm X. And allegedly, he began plotting on how to handle him. Malcolm X's story would end in New York City, assassinated by members of the Nation of Islam. And allegedly, they might have been heavily encouraged to do this by Louis Farrakhan. And in one of his more damning quotes on the matter, Louis would state the following, quote, "We don't give a damn about no white man law if you attack what we love. And frankly, it ain't none of your business. What do you got to say about it? Did you teach Malcolm? Did you make Malcolm? Did you clean up Malcolm? Did you put Malcolm out before the world? Was Malcolm your traitor or ours? And if we dealt with him like a nation deals with a traitor, what the hell business is it of yours? You just shut your mouth and stay out of it. Because in the future, we're going to become a nation. And a nation got to be able to deal with traitors and cutthroats and turncoats."
Whew.
So, maybe? In 1973, Elijah Muhammad would pass, and his son Warith would assume control of the Nation of Islam. And Warith immediately began a series of reformations, including completely discounting the Yaqub myth, making the organization a lot more accepting of people of other races joining, and ultimately completely disbanding the nation to form his own more liberal form of the faith. And Louis took this under consideration and immediately reformed the Nation of Islam with himself at the head.
Yeah, what is this, Vatican II? Come on.
Yeah, he's like, we're moving it to Chicago, fuck off. But you know, the Nation of Islam by 1988 was a pretty sizable organization, and Lenora aligning herself with Louis Farrakhan really couldn't hurt, right? I mean, the New Alliance Party had said he was one of the reasons that they even moved their operations from New York City to Chicago in the first place. Well, it turns out that the 1980s were the decade that Louis Farrakhan would make his anti-Semitism super well known. Reportedly, Louis would refer to Judaism as, quote, a gutter religion, but he would refute that claim very, very often. The big issue, though, would be in 1984 when the head of the Anti-Defamation League called Louis, quote, the Black Hitler, and his response to that, not great.
Oh no.
Yeah, someone calls you Hitler. There's a lot of good things you can say to refute that, like, no, and fuck Hitler. So here's how Louis responded to being called the Black Hitler. Quote, "Here the Jews don't like Farrakhan, so they call me Hitler. Well, that's a good name. Hitler was a very great man. He wasn't great for me as a black man, but he was a great German, and he rose Germany up from the ashes of her defeat by the united force of all of Europe and America after the First World War. Yet Hitler took Germany from the ashes and rose her up and made her the greatest fighting machine of the 20th century. Brothers and sisters, and even though Europe and America had deciphered the code that Hitler was using to speak to his chiefs of staff, they still had trouble defeating Hitler, even after knowing his plans in advance. Now, I'm not proud of Hitler's evil towards Jewish people, but that's a matter of record. He rose Germany up from nothing. Well, in a sense, you could say there's a similarity in that we are rising our people up from nothing. But don't compare me to your wicked killers." Una, how would you rate that response to being called the Black Hitler?
All I could think is just like, oh my God, he was the OG troll. He was ahead of his time. He needed internet access.
Oh my God, yeah. Ugh. So he would follow this up in 1985 with a speech at Madison Square Gardens, where he would warn Jews, quote, "And don't you forget, when it's God who puts you in the ovens, it's forever." And then followed that up by claiming that Jews actually financed the Holocaust.
Sir, you are in the land of a perfect bagel. Like how dare you?
Yeah, it's very fucked up. Yeah, there are very few things that are up for debate in this world, and one of them is that Louis Farrakhan fucking hates the Jews. Anyway, so when Louis decided to endorse Lenora in 1988, it wasn't really a good fucking look, especially for a party that was founded in New York City, which, if memory serves correctly, there are more Jews in New York City than there are in all of Israel.
Huge Hasidic communities. Yes.
And also, it doesn't help that Fred Newman, the head of your cult, the dude's Jewish, sort of. You see, he's Jewish in the way that tradition would stipulate that you are a descendant, but he was also a anti-Semite as well.
Oh, Fred.
So not to mention that he studied under Lyndon LaRouche for a bit, who in his own political cult made it very conservative and very anti-Semitic. In 1985, Fred would be quoted as saying the following about Jews, that they were, quote, the stormtroopers of decadent capitalism.
What?
Yep. It's terrible. It's very terrible.
Because you couldn't get a loan from Goldman Sachs? Like, what is this?
I'll show you who's not a licensed therapist. So you have Louis Farrakhan coming by, who clearly is anti-Semitic. The leader of your group is anti-Semitic, but you desperately need a civil rights leader of some sort to give you that credibility. And Louis Farrakhan's there to give it, and they're there to take it. And when asked by the press, Lenora would say, quote, "I remain concerned that Minister Farrakhan's language can be interpreted as anti-Semitic or anti-gay. But I know, as do my Jewish friends and followers, that the Jewish people have nothing to fear from the Nation of Islam." And they would even hold a press conference in Washington, D.C. to announce the endorsement, and Louis Farrakhan would not attend.
So there's your answer.
Yeah. He will, look, you've been pestering me for 3 years. Just fuck it. Sure. Done. But hey, now that they got their big name, the party needed a strong vice presidential nominee, and they would choose life coach Joyce Datner to fill that position. Joyce also happened to be a follower of Fred Newman, who would give his cult a base in San Francisco. The thing, though, is Lenora wouldn't just have one vice presidential nominee. She would have 6.
Yeah, a harem of vice presidents.
That's the thing that's really been missing from politics. Bring back the harem.
Yeah, let's roll deep.
Now, part of this seemed to be a way to get more well-known local names on the ballot to be able to increase turnout. For example, in Oregon, Lenora would select journalist for the monthly gay-focused alt newspaper Just Out, a fellow by the name of Harold F. Moore, to be her running mate just in the state. Moore had been a Dukakis supporter and had stated outwardly that he had no interest in Fulani at all as a person or a candidate, but he would end up interviewing her for the paper, and as soon as the interview was done, he immediately supported her and joined the New Alliance Party, and was kind of given a journalistic job with the New Alliance newspaper. But the other reason for all the VPs also seems to kind of be part of the plan for getting on the ballot in all 50 states. So a tactic that we most recently saw with patron saint of the podcast Rocky De La Fuente in 2016 and 2020 is that you get the endorsement of local parties that already have state ballot access. That way you don't have to go out there and get all these petitions in all these other states where you might not have that strong of a base.
Okay, so the VPs are acting like the major grocers of like large swaths of the country. Like if you're in California, you're going to go to a Ralph's, but if you're in Michigan, you're going to go to a Kroger.
100%. So while in one state, using Rocky as an example, the vice president nominee might be Darcy Richardson. But if you're in California, somehow it's Kanye fucking West.
He's there.
Yeah. We nominated him against his will and no one can make us stop.
It really should be a rule.
And while these parties might endorse you as their nominee, they might have someone else in mind for VP to keep their name out there. So while Lenora started getting endorsed by more local parties, some put in their own people on the ballot. And the thing is, the tactic worked. In 1988, Lenora Fulani did the impossible and became the first person of color and the first woman to end up on the presidential ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia.
Oh my God! Lenora!
And despite this, she wouldn't be invited to a single televised debate. And frankly, yeah, she's in a cult and it's a cult political party, but that's still some bullshit. If you're on the ballot in all the states, it should be on the stage.
Yeah.
But hey, you got the big endorsement. You're on the ballot in every state in DC, and it's time for you to get your policy in order. And as we described, the policies of the New Alliance Party are fucking phenomenal and progressive as fuck. And in 1988, they added a new plank to their already really good platform called the AIDS Bill of Rights. And the goal was to create a law that forbade the discrimination of anyone with HIV or AIDS and guarantee that they could maintain their careers, homes, and livelihoods without adding an additional fear to their lives. And the New Alliance Party also used this new policy as a way to grow membership within the LGBTQ community, a group of folks who really hadn't been actively sought after by any of the major parties in any meaningful way. The New Alliance Party would even create a lesbian and gay caucus within the party that was led by New York City-based psychologist and lesbian Mary Fridley. Now, I know you're going to ask this. Yes, she was trained by Fred. That is how she's a therapist.
Oh, no.
Here we are. And all of this would be amazing on its face. There's a bit of a hitch in the plan that would come in the form of a 22-year-old reporter by the name of Masha Gessen. Nowadays, Masha is most known for their appearances on Full Frontal with Samantha Bee, where they compared Trump to Putin, and were one of the first people to warn of Trump's eventual fascism back in 2016. They were also one of the very few people who lived a public and out life within Russia, a country that has zero issues with disappearing journalists that disagree with Putin, let alone out journalists that hate Putin. They are a badass of journalism, and even back in the 80s, their flair for words shines through. So in 1988, Masha was based in Boston and working for the LGBT-focused Next magazine. Mary Fridley was also running for Senate in Massachusetts, despite her still living in New York City, and despite running against Ted fucking Kennedy. That's gonna work out. But
Never heard of him.
I know. I got a bridge in Chappaquiddick to sell.
Yeah. Oh! Now you get out.
Yeah, that's fair. This is Una's podcast now. But hey, it's someone actively running for Senate in 1988 for a party that appears to be super LGBTQ friendly. So Masha is given the task of writing up an article on all of it. And what could have easily been a puff piece? Well, Masha turns it into a burning fucking indictment.
Yes, Masha, yes.
Firstly, Masha looked into Mary's past, and shocker, found out she had been trained and was still working for Fred Newman. Masha also found it incredibly weird that pretty much every higher up within the party at some point in time had been trained or therapized by Fred Newman. They also found that Mary had written an essay detailing the New Alliance Party's stance on homosexuality, entitled Homophobia and the Rise of Neo-Fascism in the United States. In the following essay, I will...
Boo.
Yeah, look, in grad school, I learned how to write pretentious titles to papers, and amongst other things.
It's the best part.
Yeah, this thing reeks of like a philosophy 502 class.
Ah, yes.
Anyway, so thankfully the essay isn't super long, but I'm going to defer to its interpretation entirely to Masha Gessen. Quote, Fridley defines homosexuality as, quote, a protest against an organized oppression of human beings. We are sexually, socially, and politically repressed under capitalism, and the attempt to break out of this repression is a positive, socially progressive move. We do not believe that it's genetic, concurs legal service director of the New Alliance Community Services in New York City. Quote, because we think that that is the right wing's position, and they have used that as a call for our extermination. So our position, get it clear, is that it's a radical political choice that makes a very radical political social protest. So to summarize, where do gay come from? Gay come from capitalism.
Like, I don't know if you want to double down on an elaborate lie just to own the right wingers, because they're just going to come back with more bullshit. Just fight with the truth. And eventually it'll be, I don't know, 2020. We'll be cool with. Eventually Will and Grace will come out and people will start to relax. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and I kind of see where Fridley's going with this, but at the same time, there are just so many buzzwords that get thrown in that it just gets drowned in this idea. And instead of going in for a second draft, she just sticks with it.
I mean, I'm fascinated more with sorting out your sexuality and identity from a political standpoint when those in charge and like the generation or half generation above you were the post World War II capitalist boom, like conservative ideals. It's like, that's fascinating to me, of like growing up in suburban America at its height when there was this headlong pitch to keep up with the Joneses and create a perfect image. And so this idea of like, this is a reaction to capitalism, because the 50s, like, so, I don't know, squashed any abilities towards, openly promoting my sexuality.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
I just think that's interesting.
Yeah. It's essentially, like, I get it. To love is a powerful act. It is a huge thing to do, but you don't decide to be gay because you want to stick it to Starbucks. That's not how it fucking works.
Also, you're going to find out Starbucks is more than willing to subsume your gay culture to promote weird, over-sugared, high-priced drinks.
Well, lucky for us, Gessen, being the great journalists they are, followed that up by asking if they were implying that if you got rid of capitalism, then no one would be gay.
Right. It's like, as I'm reading this, I just want to make sure.
Well, they had an answer to that. They said, under socialism, there would be more, not less, homosexuality, although it would represent a different kind of protest. None of the New Alliance activists I interviewed, however, explained the logic behind this response.
Nope. Yeah. Nope.
So yeah, at age 22, Masha Gessen is like, this is some bullshit, and I'm digging. I am in it to fuck you up.
Look at this shovel that's just been placed into my hand.
Oh no, who would do this?
Darn.
Well, and of course, Masha went to talk to the executive director of the Heydrich Martin Institute, which is an amazing LGBT organization in New York City, presented them with this theory, to which they said, quote, that is just a slightly naive political variation on the pathology theory of homosexuality, that something bad happens and then you become gay.
Burn.
Yeah.
You only read half the book in your Psych 101 class.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that the beginning of that sentence didn't start with, he seethed in rage for 5 minutes, muttered at his chair, and then sat down and talked to me.
He counted backwards from 10 and then proceeded
I left the office to the sound that I could only assume to be pens snapping in half. So Masha would then begin to dig into the AIDS Bill of Rights, because this is a long, long article, and Masha's not just giving up after this first burn, and mainly found that it was really odd that none of the major LGBT organizations had ever endorsed the AIDS Bill of Rights. So the National Alliance Party would claim that LGBT orgs were against the bill, stating, quote, the national lesbian and gay leadership, which is white male, which is racist and classist, has steadfastly refused to support a federal AIDS Bill of Rights because they say that lesbian and gay people in this country have enough rights. And look, you just got to look at Boys Town here in Chicago. Yes, white gay men have a strong and long history of racism and sexism and classism. You're not fucking wrong there.
Nope.
These are national organizations. They're not going to say no to an AIDS Bill of Rights that very simply says you can't fire someone with HIV or AIDS.
Yeah.
So clearly it had to be something else. And it would mostly be that none of them had heard of it. Yeah, so Masha would ask a number of the leaders in the LGBTQ community of why they didn't support the AIDS Bill of Rights, and all would state that they had never heard of it before. And apparently the National Alliance Party would also say that they introduced the bill to the Boston City Council, but no bill had ever been filed. It was just kind of a ghost of something.
A whisper on the wind.
Look, if we just tell people about this, we'll be good. But then it gets worse, because New Alliance spokespeople would claim that drug companies were getting rich off the AIDS pandemic, which, not wrong, but that they had engineered the whole crisis just to make money. And because of this, they recommended to people who had HIV or AIDS to completely refuse medication.
No.
And in conclusion, Gessen would state, quote, "The New Alliance Party cannot point to any achievement in the interest of gay men and lesbians, nor has it demonstrated any ability or desire to work with other lesbian and gay activists. Its professed support of the gay and lesbian community also has not resulted in its refutations of its notoriously homophobic associates, such as Minister Louis Farrakhan."
Yeah.
So the New Alliance Party, after in the midst of this interview, kind of made a pitch to Masha. Essentially what Mary said is that she really wanted to have a round table for all of the LGBT movers and shakers in Boston. And asked Masha, hey, do you know anyone who might want to come to this?
My bitch is like, are you for real?
Yeah, I mean, Masha did make a point that Mary Fridley clearly had no idea the names of any of the LGBTQ organizations or activists within Boston. But that's also because she lived in New York City. She has carpetbagged to Boston to run a doomed Senate campaign. So of course she's not going to know anyone.
I mean, sure, there's no rainbow yellow pages.
But they did say that the event was to feature the editors of both of Boston's preeminent LGBTQ alt-weekly newspapers, the Gay Community News and Bay Windows, and would be held at the offices of the Gay Community News. The New Alliance Party even promised to send invitations to every activist that Masha felt would be a good fit for the event. So the day before the roundtable, Masha was informed that the time of the event had changed. Also, instead of meeting at Gay Community News, they'd instead be using an office at the New Alliance Party office in Boston. So when Masha arrived at the new place and time, they found out that the only people who would be in attendance were 3 New Alliance Party members and themselves. No one from Gay Community News, no one from Bay Windows, and none of the LGBT activists that Masha had recommended to be invited.
And at this point, Masha was probably thinking, is this a hit? Am I walking out of here?
Yeah, I believe they described it as essentially walking into a room that could barely fit 4 people to begin with.
Gosh.
So the whole thing had shifted from a roundtable to the New Alliance Party and Masha debating the party's LGBTQ views. And the next day, Masha started making calls because they're a journalist and that's what they do. And Masha found out that the New Alliance Party had contacted the folks at Bay Windows, but the folks at Bay Windows immediately told the New Alliance Party, we're not interested, go away. Gay Community News said that they would try to send a reporter to represent the paper, but that the main editor wouldn't be there. And Masha also found out that at best, the New Alliance Party hadn't been able to contact the activists that they'd recommended, and at worst, just never called them. Included in the latter would be Don Gorton, the chairman of the Greater Boston Lesbian and Gay Political Alliance.
Come on.
They also noted that during this time, whenever they would present a counter argument to what the New Alliance Party supported, they would constantly look over their shoulder, and it was kind of more of like an interrogation than anything else. And despite all of this, it couldn't be denied that the party was growing. The party had gained matching funds from the federal government and were raking in cash thanks to the sidewalk campaigning of so many of their new supporters. But as the LA Times would note, while the party was able to bring in over $1 million in campaign funds, they weren't able to even win 1% of the vote. When the presidential election finally finished, they would finish in 4th place, pretty respectable, with 217,000 votes nationwide and get 0.24% of the vote. Which yeah, for a third party on their second presidential run, those are the kind of numbers that could really instill hope for something more to come in the future. It's something you could really build on. But the thing
Did they, Dusty?
That's the thing with cults, is people do leave. And when they leave, they talk. And the more people who talk, the more others are encouraged to share their own stories. The first big break came via Coming Up, an alt-weekly LGBT newspaper in San Francisco. A former NAP member, Lauren Redwood, wrote an article detailing how she got in and why she got out as soon as she could. In her article, she stated that she joined the organization to support her girlfriend at the time, who is a huge supporter of the party and Fulani. She moved with her girlfriend to actively campaign and raise funds for the 88 campaign. According to Lauren, quote, I worked 7 days a week, 16 to 20 hours a day. I had 2 days off in 2.5 months. There was an incredible urgency which overrode any personal needs or considerations, an urgency that meant complete self-sacrifice. I realize now how sexist that is. As a woman, I've always been taught that self-sacrifice is good and that I must be willing to give up everything for the greater good for all. Traditionally, this has come from the form of a husband or children. The NAP is simply a substitute. I felt totally powerless over my life, forced into a very submissive role where all of my life belonged to someone else.
Oof.
In 1990, Lenora Fulani's 88 campaign publicist, Marina Ortiz, would leave the party as well. After being hired onto the campaign, Marina was told that she was to follow every order Fred Newman gave her and to enter into his brand of therapy immediately. The net result of these overlapping affiliations and commitments, according to Ortiz, was the creation of an organizational control mechanism that derailed criticism and enforced obedience. Marina also notes that, very much like a cult leader would, Newman attempted to tear apart her family, which after leaving the NAP, she would devote her time to repairing the damage that Newman caused.
Oh.
And when Marina left in 1990, Newman wrote sort of like a goodbye note in the party's official newspaper, stating of Marina, quote, there is an honesty about this woman that is shockingly pure, an uncompromising honesty that sniffs out even a hint of disingenuousness. We have built our love within, the struggle to reorganize her anger on behalf of her people rather than against herself. I love our love affair, Marina Ortiz. And Marina was very keen to point out The two have never fucked. They have never been in a love affair, and clearly this was his attempt to sexually blackmail her.
Yeah. Oh, that's so creepy.
But one of the most damning articles, especially in regards to the AIDS Bill of Rights, would be published in 1993 by former member Robert Cohen in the New York Amsterdam News. Robert would accuse the NAP of scamming the gay community of New York City and offered his volunteer work as evidence. Robert stated that he would raise money to push the AIDS Bill of Rights in 8-hour shifts every day, and mentioned raising thousands of dollars a day due to so many people being affected by or afflicted with AIDS. However, the money never went towards pushing the Bill of Rights, and instead paid rent for New Alliance Party offices, executive salaries, and Newman's personal funds. And in line with Fred's demand for money, straight men assigned to raise money in the West Village or at gay events were often counseled, i.e. pressured, by their political superiors to don earrings, put on skimpy t-shirts, and spandex biker shorts, so that they could pass for gay, all the while sneering at the gay community because the party doesn't believe you're really gay unless you support the New Alliance Party.
What?
But despite all of this dirty laundry finally being aired, the New Alliance Party kept going. Lenora would run for mayor of New York City again in 1989, finishing a real sad 5th place with 1,700 votes, and then would run for governor of New York again in 1990, also finishing 5th with 0.77% of the vote. And Fred would also run in 1990, this time for attorney general because he has no knowledge of law to begin with, and finished 5th as well with 0.59% of the vote. So by this point, any goodwill that the party may have gained from the 1988 presidential election was starting to run out. And if you have a cult-based grift, that money has to keep coming in from somewhere. And if you're losing due-paying members, it's time to start downsizing. So when Lenora entered into the 1992 presidential race as the New Alliance Party's nominee, local party members in other areas started noticing a really fishy thing happening. And the best folks to focus on for this would be a pair of party leaders in Maryland named Annie Chambers and Morning Sunday. So both were active in creating the New Alliance Party's Maryland offices and had grown it into something pretty sizable. Both had worked really hard on the Fulani campaign, but both quickly discovered that the National Party didn't really have any interest in what they had to say or supporting any candidates beyond Lenora Fulani. Sunday noted that on multiple occasions, any money that they had raised for local candidates would be immediately taken by National Party representatives. A final straw came when the steering committee demanded that Sunday deliver Fulani's ballot signatures 5 months before they were due. Sunday wanted to wait, and when the steering committee found that she hadn't done as she was told, they sued her in civil court and had a New Alliance Party staffer file criminal charges against Sunday and Chambers.
Oh my God.
Morning stated, quote, "When we tried to question their authority, all hell broke loose. They went into severe attack phase. The judge found Sunday and Chambers guilty of theft on June 9th, 1992. And even though Sunday turned over the petitions to the New Alliance Party through a neutral mediator from the community, both Sunday and Chambers were punished with suspended jail sentences, placed on probation, and ordered to perform community service."
Wait, the judge ruled again? Oh,
Yep,
what? What?
Because I don't know why or how, but yeah. And even it was like a mix of things. Like they were concerned that all this local money was going elsewhere and they were kind of using it for leverage. But also you have 5 more months to collect signatures, a thing that is incredibly difficult for a third party. And it's usually best to collect as many as you fucking can before turning them in.
Oh.
And so it's this whole thing. And the party, instead of sitting down and talking with Annie Chambers and Morning Sunday, they're like, our counter offer is we sue you.
All right, just as a sidebar, I mean, we're all feeling the parallels to the current like Trump email campaign grifting, just so that's out there.
Oh yeah, 100%. And this is something that would eventually be confirmed, is that the New Alliance Party was closing down all of their state and local offices to save money. Anything they could do to get the money back to Fred Newman and Lenora Fulani, they would do it. So Lenora would pick Chicana activist Maria Elizabeth Munoz as her running mate, which seems to kind of have been an olive branch to win the endorsement of the Peace and Freedom Party in California and get Lenora on the ballot there. But the national campaign this time was completely non-existent. Any money they brought in wasn't placed for ads or any sort of campaigning that would be notable, and the party wouldn't even get half the number of votes that they got in 1988. And for all intents and purposes, it was pretty much a zombie campaign. But why, after all the relative success in 1988, why the fuck would you give up on seriously running nationwide? And the entire reason seems to be, well, there's 2 reasons. One is that Fred Newman's politics seemed to kind of change in 1992. So one of the things that Dennis Surratt said back in the mid-80s to the Jackson Advocate was he thoroughly believed that once this left-wing grift ran out for Fred Newman, he would switch over to being a conservative as quickly as he could.
Yeah, gotta get that right-wing grift where no one knows your name.
And in 1992, a fellow by the name of H. Ross Perot inspired Fred to start to make that shift.
Oh, I just assumed it was because William Clinton was in office and Fred was angry that it wasn't his boomer ass.
I could kind of see that, but I think the way that I see this is you've been trying to make this third-party movement since 1979, and it's not working out. No matter what you do, you can't grift and lie enough to make it work. But H. Ross Perot comes out of nowhere with his millions of fucking dollars and ends up at one point during 1992 seems like he might actually win.
Gotta stay at the table. He's on TV.
But he's also not running a grift. He's just being honest. He's just being himself.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But it's working. And now that he sees this third-party movement that actually works, Fred wants to hitch his wagon. He's got to figure this out as quick as possible. But the bigger reason, and probably the more accurate one, is that Fred was about to go all in on the cult that he currently had. And yeah, it's probably really scary to watch your cult grow to the biggest numbers you've ever seen, only for so many new members to flee within a year or two after they find out what's really fucking up. And nowhere is this sudden fear more notable than in probably one of the best essays written against Fred, entitled The Destruction of the International Workers' Party by Lumpen Thunder and the AK-47s.
What?
Great band name. Terrible.
Yeah, I was just going to say. It's a punk band, right?
Yeah, they mostly do a lot of Fugazi covers. It's
really not Thank you. Okay, we're on the same page.
So Lumpen obviously is a pseudonym, and it was the pseudonym for a guy by the name of William Pleasant, a playwright and a staunch communist who had worked directly with Fred and helped him co-write some of his very shitty plays throughout the 80s. And William would claim that Fred got this idea to kill the New Alliance Party and the International Workers' Party in 1989. Quote, many IWP members believe that Newman's decision to destroy the party developed in the summer of 1989. At the time, he slipped out of the country with his new bride, Gabrielle Kurlander, the wife of National Alliance staffer David Nachman, in the company of NA Executive Director Jackie Salet and Castillo Center activist Maria Moshanovsku, a former member of the Greek Communist Party and a major Newman contributor. At the same time, Newman ordered William Pleasant, New Alliance senior editor, and Eva Brenner, an Austrian IWP member and Castillo activist, to go to Europe and arrange a series of meetings between Newman and European leftists. So, this is a weird story.
Yeah, what is happening?
All right, so the thing with William Pleasant's essays, it's both interesting, you get a lot of really good historical context, but it's also all over the fucking place at times. It's so clearly written by him despite the pseudonym because almost everything is just his personal grievances. But he also really hates women that he doesn't feel are communist enough or don't understand Marxist-Leninist ideology.
No, he's just a communist. Like my interactions with other communists, that's a very specific misogyny. Yes.
Yeah, like about a tenth of the article or the thing he wrote is 100% that specific brand of sub-misogyny.
She had some feelings towards, Trotskyism. Also asked her if she would blow me and she wouldn't. But mostly it was Trotskyism.
Go back and the fact Stalin, you whore.
That I asked her out for drinks and she laughed.
Yep, 100%. So after the 1988 election, things were going really, really well. And I get the feeling people were very excited to see what was coming next. And so Fred presents this idea to William Pleasant and Eva Brenner that we're going to go to Europe. We're going to talk to all of these leftists, all these communist leaders there, and we're going to make this party a little more international. We're going to build our credibility while we're there. And during this time, Fred also ends up getting not really married, but he's now with another woman in his abusively polyamorous situation. And it's a woman who was married, who stole's not the right word, who he
seduced?
Yeah, who he seduced from another man who was working for his own political party, who was then given a seat on the Central Committee as a way of saying, sorry, I'm fucking your wife, bro. You know how it is. So essentially, so they're sending Pleasant and Brenner all the way to Europe. But thing is, this is a secret mission, Una. So secret that the International Workers' Party cannot give them any funds to go or set anything up. So William and Eva have to go out onto the streets of New York and raise the money themselves to fly to Europe to set up 2 weeks of meetings with people to get lodging, food, everything.
Okay, first of all, trigger warning, because I'm getting flashbacks to our Greats episodes.
To our the Bo Greats episodes?
Yeah.
It's not great so far. And they were told that what they were supposed to do, if anyone asked them why they were raising the money, it would be so that they could bring in international artists to perform at the Castillo Center's Festival of Revolution. So you're raising money for the 10-minute play festival, which in our experience, that's like $100 in the back of a bar. You don't really have to do much for that, depending.
Thank God Indiegogo wasn't around.
Oh my God. So they would eventually end up getting all their money together. I believe it was about $5,000 total. And they would end up setting meetings with leftists in Austria, West Germany, East Germany, France, and Belgium. And Newman would end up arriving in Vienna for the first meeting, but then canceled the rest of the meetings in Austria. The next day, they were told he was too sick to travel to East Germany, but claimed he would end up being there as soon as he left Vienna. So Pleasant and Brenner go ahead to Berlin, make some excuses for the guy, but he will be there as soon as he feels better.
Totally going to East Germany. Totally going to the cool Germany, you guys.
So Jackie Salet, Maria Austria Moshenescu would end up arriving, but Neumann never did. The two acted as his representatives and had no explanation for the East German leftists as to why Neumann hadn't arrived as well. The meeting went really badly.
What's the 24-letter word in German for that level of awkward?
I know it exists. But as soon as the meeting was done, Salet and Moshenescu left and essentially just abandoned Pleasant and Brenner.
Wow.
And the thing is, they'd run out of money by that point. So Neumann never called Pleasant or Brenner to let them know what was going on. And the two were left to assume that Neumann was canceling the rest of the stops in Germany, France, and Belgium. Not only that, but despite Pleasant and Brenner's attempts, they couldn't contact anyone from the IWP and found themselves completely stranded in Berlin with barely any money. Lucky for Brenner, she is from Austria, so that's not a huge lift for her. She can get home and be fairly fine. But Pleasant is stuck in Berlin, just waiting for Neumann to contact him. And eventually Pleasant would get a call from his wife, telling him that Neumann was back in New York City and, quote, demanding that the membership of the IWP want him in the way that his new girlfriend, Kurlander, age 24, wanted him. His decree was based upon his experience in Europe and his many meetings with European leftists that had convinced him that communism was dead. Yeah, it's not good.
This is even more awkward.
So Pleasant would later come to find that the whole trip was actually just a way to get a free honeymoon in Vienna, and that he also spent an extra 30 grand from the IWP treasury to accomplish it. That money was spent on 5-star hotels, cruise ship fares, a Mercedes-Benz, and the other incidental accessories of an upper-class white man on tour with his new bride. Communist shit.
Yeah, this is so bougie.
Una, that opinion you have.
This is the bougiest grift.
No. You are showing off your bourgeois tendencies by viewing this as a grift. I think we need to get you back into group therapy, Una.
No.
We're all going to yell at you for mocking this man's honeymoon where he met with definitely European leaders. So while he was hanging out in these fancy hotels, fucking his second wife, I believe, something like that, Pleasant and Brenner slept on the floors of IWP supporters' rooms and just scrounged for lunch money. And according to Pleasant, at one point in Berlin, they resorted to outright thievery to survive. All this time waiting for Fred to contact them. Eventually, Pleasant was able to scrounge up enough money to get back to New York City, and Ava Brenner would join him as well. The two immediately confronted Neumann, and Neumann claimed that he had to return to New York City because his new wife was suffering from an ectopic pregnancy, a scenario in which a fertilized egg begins to grow outside the uterus because, of course, I have to learn something new and horrifying about how pregnancy works. This happens every month, Una. Why?
Not the ectopic pregnancy, to be clear. Just... So you learning something terrible.
No, it's
good to know. Ectopic pregnancies are very scary. The fetus starts growing in the fallopian tubes.
For some reason, I thought you were going to say the word tummy, but yes, the fallopian tubes. I'm so good at this.
As the fetus, as the baby, a gift from God, continues to spread its joy within the stomach region.
Eventually, a medically trained stork will arrive at your home.
And you will be given a 9-month-old fat child.
So Ava Brenner would immediately call bullshit to this for 3 reasons. One would be bad enough, but we got 3. 1, just fucking tell us that's why you left and we could have canceled all the meetings and come home. 2, an ectopic pregnancy is super life-threatening, and why the fuck would you fly back to New York City to treat it when Vienna is made of the best hospitals in the fucking world?
It's Vienna.
And 3, Brenner's dad was the head of the Austrian Medical Association, and one phone call could have gotten you the best care for this particular thing in the entire world. And Neumann had no excuse for this, and Brenner immediately resigned from the IWP.
Oh, good for her.
So when Neumann returned to New York City, demanding that his entire cadre of IWP, quote, want him, he declared that it was the last hope of the revolution on Earth. The demand was that all revolutionary politics be located in him and him alone. So he is now turning this from a political party into a cult of personality where everyone fucks him.
Oh, no.
No, we have moved into sex cult.
No.
Actually, we've probably always been in sex cult.
Yeah, but at least it had the dignity to be other grifty kinds of cult.
And the fun thing is William Pleasant would name names, stating who all 4 of his wives were. One was a woman by the name of Hazel Darren, who is believed to be his very first follower. The second was Kurlander. The third was a woman by the name of Deborah Green. And the fourth, Lenora Fulani.
Oh, shit! Lenora.
Now, this is allegedly.
Okay, yes.
Here we are.
We literally can't say that enough. Please don't sue us.
Yeah. So the other kind of weird thing that Fred started preaching about this time is that all black men are rapists, specifically towards Jewish women.
What?
Yep. So there's that. Neumann also began referring to all IWP women as Kurlanders, named after his second wife, and stated that the best way to measure the level of, what's the word I'm looking for, devotion to the particular movement was based on how much they wanted him.
I don't want to psychoanalyze a guy who got his start with this sex cult through the misuse of therapy, but I'm going to. At this point, this man is probably in his early to mid 40s. right? He's a baby boomer, right? Yeah. So he's
he was born in 35. So yeah, he'd be in his 40s at this point.
Yeah. So this is the worst midlife crisis ever. Like that's what, wow, some people get a car, maybe step out of their marriage, take up the drums. You started a sex cult.
Yeah. You were like, how many other ways could I completely corrupt people through something that should help them? Oh yes, I'll sexually assault them.
How will I actively avoid considering my own mortality and the decrease of virility? I know, sex cult.
So it was apparently also he encouraged all IWP members to start writing letters to him, very much in the style of the love poems that Kurlander had sent to him for a while. So now every single day people had to write him love notes and poems, allegedly.
This is so weird.
So Pleasant would state that he believed that there were at least 3 current explanations as for why Newman made the break in 1989. One assumes that Newman was, in fact, a Marxist-Leninist who lost his nerve. Others believe that Newman was approached by the state and was coerced into destroying the IWP. Finally, one school of thought holds that Newman was never a Marxist-Leninist, but simply a cult leader who used his left politics as a marketing strategy for building his cult. The big problem, though, is now that he's gotten rid of the IWP, how the fuck is he going to still keep the members that he has? Well, he doesn't. He then moves to kick out all of the communists from his Communist Party and continues then to take all of his other little foundations that he's had and try to legitimize them in mainstream American capitalism.
What?
Yeah, so he's going to take all of his therapy things and be like, oh, this is an official business. The Castillo Theater, that's a business. And just deeply ingrain himself into American capitalism to
be fair, I feel like this tracks heavily with everything that happened in the 90s. You know?
Yeah, yes, 100%. And so finally, as William Pleasant would state, in the 1992 presidential run, he essentially backed up the idea that, yeah, they were closing down offices nationally. They were closing down offices statewide. They were getting rid of all grassroots funding to help out funding in neighborhoods that were predominantly people of color. And he also claims that in the 1992 run, Newman pocketed up to $4 million of campaign funds to just spend however the fuck he wanted.
In Vienna.
And unsurprisingly, the New Alliance Party was officially disbanded in 1993. The grift was just done. He went in, he got all the money he could in 1992 and backed the fuck out.
Wow.
And Fred Newman would continue his work as a quote-unquote therapist until his death in 2011. He would also serve as the Castillo Theater's artistic director until 2005, when he was ousted due to allegations of sexual abuse stemming from the All-Star Project, which is sort of like a talent show youth mentorship program for troubled kids where you had to pay to take part. And you know what they say about talent shows. If you're paying to take part, it's completely legitimate.
It's totally talent.
So yeah, the state of New York, the Elliot Spitzer administration announced that they were doing a deep look into these accusations. And New York One, which is a channel in New York City, decided to do a bit of an expose on Fred Newman, which Newman decided, I'm going to take part. I'm going to answer anything you ask me. And when asked, hey, Fred, should a therapist be allowed to fuck their patients? Fred announced, yes, a therapist should be allowed to fuck their patients.
Oh, it's never good when the softball questions are answered truthfully.
Yeah, when you're living in your own bubble to the point that you just answer that question as if that's a normal thing to say, you've gone too far. Your cult has maxed out.
Yeah.
So many of his acolytes still run the Castillo Theater, which exists today. But they also run the All-Stars Project, which exists today in New York City and New Jersey. The Castillo Theater offers a yearly playwriting competition called the Mario Frati Fred Newman Political Play Contest, which is how I knew about these people to begin with.
Amazing.
And since that, it's a contest I've known of since 2006, and I just always assumed they were a super legitimate theater in New York.
And here we are, knowing far too much about it.
And as for Fred's culty therapy clinics, they're all closed, except for one. The East Side Institute still operates today in New York City and seems to have a decent amount of funding. Most recent presentations include a presentation called What's Giving and Growing Got to Do with ellipses, sex. And it was presented by discoverer of Where Gay Come From, Mary Fridley, and former vice presidential nominee Joyce Datner. It's essentially, there are so many presentations there of like a who's who of the New Alliance Party. Like you could go on any weekend and you're probably going to see someone that we mentioned in this, except for Fred because he's dead, and thank God for that.
Amazing.
As for Lenora, she's still out there on the speaking circuit, netting about $15,000 to $20,000 per appearance.
Good for her.
In 1994, she would run for New York governor for her third and final time, this time running for the Democratic primary as the sole competitor to Mario Cuomo, where she got crushed 80 to 20%.
Ugh.
But also, this isn't the last political party that Fred and Lenora participated in. But Una, that's a story for another day.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
New Alliance Party.
Newest Alliance. Not to be confused with the Alliance Party run by Rocky De La Fuente and Darcy Richardson. They're better people, damn it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So how you feeling with all that, Una? What you thinking about?
Oh, just wrung out. I'm so full of emotions, but then also so hollow. Like how are they going to do this to us? Those beautiful progressive planks.
It's so rough just because you read over those ideas and it's just like, yeah, that's everything that Bernie Sanders ran on.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and great. And if one decent person was fucking behind it, we could have a major third party right now. But instead, it was just a really clever grift.
It was just a grift.
It's so depressing, especially because, yeah, Lenora Fulani made history. She is, no shade to the cult she was in. She did something that was literally seemingly impossible at the time.
Yeah, and I'd never heard of her before.
It's just genuinely depressing that, even I was a part of that grift, assuming the Castillo Theater was like a thing to be respected. The company I work for, I've seen the All-Star Project come up in people's lists. As of right now, they're in New Jersey. There's a list of resources for Essex County, and listed under their arts section is the All-Star Project. And the people who run it are people we've mentioned in this fucking episode.
And you're just like, no, my two worlds cannot combine.
No, you're supporting a cult. Stop it.
This is just a cult.
And it's like, I don't know what they've been actively doing because Fred Newman definitely turned it into his own personal sex cult. And I don't really know who's running it now or what their goals are. If they're just like, oh, we inherited all of these things, let's just run them.
But not as a sex cult because we're not into that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know who's at the top as of right now. It might be Lenora Fulani. It could literally be anyone. That's something I would definitely like to look into. But sadly, this isn't going to be the last political cult we talk about. But it certainly is our first.
I know.
And it sucks because I didn't even plan it that way. It just happened. It's like, oh, a great political party. Oh, no, it's a cult.
Oh, a sex cult.
So I think the lesson we learned from this is if something does seem too good to be true, always check to make sure it's a cult first.
Yeah, be the Masha in your life.
Yeah. Be Masha Gessen. Always be Masha Gessen. Well, on that note, thank you all for joining us on this, I'm assuming, very long episode to close this out because I was not doing a part 4 just to talk about the 1992 election because it's one sentence. It was a grift. They made $10 million and got the fuck out.
Grift. Moving on.
Yeah, it's always be grifting, always be moving. But y'all, thank you so much for joining us. But also, I think it's important to note this episode's our 1-year anniversary of starting this podcast. And honestly, I'm joyous to be doing this podcast with you, Una. I don't know of anyone else in the world who could stomach this on a weekly basis. Other than our wonderful listeners. Everyone who's joined us on this journey, thank you so much. And I can't wait to give you another year of things that are occasionally... 4 more years. Oh God, there is enough for 4 more years. But yeah, hopefully next time we talk to you guys, it'll be under good American circumstances.
New administration.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on Gadfly. Gadfly is a production of Added Serotonin. Our episodes are edited by Brianna Valentine of Rem Alternus Productions. Our theme song is Sophomore Makeout by Silent Partner, and you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at GadflyPod.
Ready to level up your cosplay game? Check out the Geek Forge on Etsy. With a variety of props to give your photos that extra spark, you'll find just what you need. Hold magical fire in the palm of your hand, or take a potion to restore your mana. With a large variety of colors, you can choose your own magical flavor for your cosplay. Bring drama to your photo shoots with these vibrant props and more, all available at the Geek Forge. Are you ready to level up your cosplay?